Hello, Abigail here with the astrology for Libra season. Yes, folks, we made it out of eclipse season. I will say we're in a bit of the runoff still because that final eclipse was right before we head into the next season, just so you're aware. Also, something really important to note that, especially at the beginning of Libra season, we are going to be passing through the opposition with Neptune. We are going to be passing through the trines with Uranus and Pluto. So, the first few weeks of Libra season are definitely very spicy, and I think it's important to note that that's what's happening. There's not as many transits moving through this season, which I think is a nice reprieve. However, we are also going into our oppositions at the later degrees of Libra with Chiron, which will bring up a lot of personal topics of pain and transformation and trauma. And also, because I do work with spirit babies, we're also going to be passing in an opposition with Ceres. So, a lot of topics of care and partnership and children and being confronted with the balance that is required with what we want and what we desire. That's also going to happen too during the season. So, just a little heads up for those of you who like a little bit of asteroid sprinkled into your astrology. So yeah, we're going to go through kind of what's happening, but I really, really think it's important to note that, especially at the beginning, we have some really major planetary events. So Libra season starts on the 22nd. That's when we're going to go into this kind of air opposition to Aries intensity. It's going to be a lot, it's going to be a bit spicy. So keep that in mind. Also, we're going to have our full moon in Aries and our new moon in Libra. And because we had that triple moment over here in this season and everything's kind of higgledy-piggledy, we're back to having a full moon at the beginning of a season and a new moon at the end of the season. And this interchanges all the time, but I definitely find it kind of gives a little bit of a different vibe when you kick off with a full moon and you end with a new moon. That full moon in Aries is on the 6th of October. So we actually kind of have a space towards the end of September. While there are a lot of astrological aspects happening, we don't have any like big transitory shifts. So no planets shifting signs, no stations retrograde or direct, no new and full moon. So I do think once we kind of get out of the vice grip of, that kind of first 5 degrees specifically of Libra, there is smoother sailing. So the first week of Libra season going to be a bit much for sure. Also, we're still coming down from those eclipses. But as we head into the second week, it does feel like, although we are building to that full moon, it does feel like the last week of September and the first week of October, there's a little bit more ease and flow. Also, not to forget that our bestie, our bestie Mars, is now in domicile, and it's going to be a relief because I don't hate Mars and Libra. It is very good at kind of calling people out on their inconsistencies. It's been a lot to have it in detriment. So having it in domicile is going to be nice, especially as we head towards our spooky season and the thinning of the veil and the kind of more cooler moments. Then on the 13th, we end up getting Venus going into Libra, and thank goodness. We get another planet in domicile. Huge sigh of relief. Big kind of collapse into thank goodness, because it's been a lot. We've had like a planet in detriment or in a really tricky situation for so long. And I know Venus is going to go through, those early degrees of Libra, but it is going to feel good. And also, while Venus is in those early degrees, Pluto stations direct. So there's going to be a really kind of changing and turning of the tides on that day. So definitely log away October 13th as kind of a moment where a big shift and energetic kind of release is going to happen. Now that Pluto station is going to take a minute, so it also might feel a bit like of a vacuum that we're being sucked into, but it's going to be made a little easier by that Venus moment, which, oh, thank goodness. Then we go to our new moon in Libra, which is on the 21st. I think it's going to be really nice. It's, the moon is not extra special or not special at all in, Libra, but having a Venus ruled moon after the eclipses, after a Mars ruled moon is going to feel really nice and sweet. It's going to be at the later degrees of Libra. So if you have later degree placements in Libra or Aries, buckle up. I have not super late degree, but I have a later degree Mercury. Check out in Aries. So check out what you have going on in the trines and the squares, all those things. Then we have as our kind of final moment, and it's kind of similar to the Mars going into Scorpio, right before the Sun enters Scorpio, Neptune enters Pisces. And so we kind of have this kind of big splash into water energy, into what's coming next, into having to kind of redo that final Neptune moment. And Neptune was in Pisces for a minute. So we're heading back into more familiar waters. It's not going to be all fun simply because I think a lot of us are ready to be done and move forward. So many of my clients are ready to be done and move forward, and I understand and I feel the same. But we're not really going to get that until our bestie Neptune and Saturn in February head back into Aries. So know that that's kind of length of time we're dealing with. Almost a full eclipse cycle. Me chuckling evilly. So yeah, it does feel as though, Libra season is a bit more simple. It feels like there's a bit more ease around it. I'm gonna check my notes because I have a sneaking feeling, because I wrote this down during the Mercury retrograde, sneaky feeling I've missed something, and I want to make sure I'm not wrong. Yeah. So when did it go into there? Me not knowing when Mercury goes into Scorpio. I'm like, I feel like Mercury goes into Scorpio at some point. Oh yeah, that is what I missed. Called it. All right, so you're welcome. I was like, there's something I'm missing. So Mercury goes into Scorpio on the 6th, on the day of the full moon in Aries. I find it interesting that Mercury, while not associated with Aries, is going into a Mars ruled placement. So we're going to have Mars in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio, full moon in Aries. So a lot of kind of deep, rich water energy, a lot of tenacity, a lot of a desire for deep, unadulterated or adulterated connection. This is also spicy time. It feels like this full moon in Aries is a really great time for sexual exploration. Me trying not to be super clear about that. Don't flag me. And for maybe the spicier things of life. And like I said, this happens on the 6th. So right before Venus goes into Libra. And, there's not really, like I said, once again, we have a planet that's kind of neither here nor there. Mercury's favorite place isn't technically in water signs. You're not going to get that quick kind of pop, pop, pop action mentally that you get. But Mercury in water signs is great for poetry, imagery, artistic pursuit, diving into like deep topics with Mars being the ruler and also Mars being in Scorpio. There's a lot of fabulous energy for just deep diving into topics, for discovering new things, for if you're someone who likes horror or is writing horror or murder mysteries or any type of kind of darker topics, this is your time to shine. And it will be, I think, a nice release from having to really kind of be on task that Mercury has in a lot of air and fire and earth signs. You get a little more freedom here. So yeah, that is the astrology of Libra season. There's a lot of kind of nuances to this season, but as far as like major moments, it's a little more chill than some of the seasons. Like I said, be aware that we are still going through some kind of trickier aspects with it being in that grand trine. On the bright side, we finally get a Mars ruled full moon in a really nice place. And we're also going to get, a Venus new moon in Libra that's also ruled by a Venus Libra. So there's a lot of opportunity, especially around the new and the full moon, for some really just solid progressive stuff to happen and stuff that feels right and not completely insane, which is how it's been recently with these eclipses. I do want to do kind of a fun little thing. I recently got my Camino Tarot, which I'm going to butcher the last names of these people probably, but Letitia Barbier is the one who wrote the guidebook, and then Lou Benesh is the um, illustrator. I destroyed those last names. I'm sorry, I apologize. But it is a solely major arcana deck. It has some special cards in it. But I really love the imagery. It feels, in a way, kind of both Aries and also very Libran. So it's kind of the perfect mashup. And I wanted to kind of just do, I'm going to do the tarot scopes for Libra season, your personal signs, but I kind of wanted to pull from this deck. The first deck, I love this, is the World. It does feel like a lot of the eclipse stuff is going to be finalizing and wrapping up and coming into closure in Libra season. The World is about this meeting of crossroads, the shifting of karmic paths, the concepts of destiny and fate coming up against the force and nature of spirit and soul. So we have the World for this season, and I really think that's a beautiful card to get. A lot, but beautiful. And then we have this one, which is a really beautiful card, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but it is about creation and abundance and fecundity and lush growth. We have the beehive and this, bowl of fruit and the dog. And if you notice, the dog is a nursing mom. She has very full nipples, and there's just this sense of excess. And I really think, especially with these domicile planets and all of the work we have done in 2025, that this card is a really beautiful card to believe in, to hope for, to meditate on. This idea of creation and excess, and not excess in a capitalistic way. Excess is in like when a tree flowers and fruits, the fruit falls to the ground and some stays on the tree, and the fruit on the ground gets eaten by animals and bugs, and the fruit on the tree gets eaten by humans and birds. There is enough for everyone. And I know in this time it feels like there's not, because that's how capitalism works. But don't forget that there is enough for all of us. And last but not least, so appropriate, the Magician. We have options, possibilities, opportunities coming up in Libra season. And I love that he is holding a pendulum. We also have a chance to connect to magic more deeply. I also think, and this has been coming through a lot, I also think a lot of plant spirits are reaching out as we head towards the close of the year, when they kind of go a little more dormant. So connect to plant spirits, connect to your creativity and your love for fashion and art and beauty. And I encourage you, as always, to decolonize and disconnect your views of abundance and creativity from colonialism and violence and designer brands and fashion as we have been taught it. One second. Reggie, no, baby. Hey, one second. My 8-pound guard dog yelling his head off. Anyways, this is the time, especially with Venus and the sun in Libra, which the sun is also in detriment in Libra, I'm aware, or rather in fall. It can be a hard time because we do have to face our need for balance and lack thereof that can exist together in harmony or not. That there is beauty and magic outside of the systems that we have been told are our only access to those things. While money, we all definitely need money, and I'm not saying that we don't. While money is often our only way for survival, money is not everything. And there's beauty and joy and magic in the world around us, and in our friends and our lovers, and in maybe the certain types of works or crafts we do with our hands. And I encourage you this Libra season and this fall, because this is the fall equinox, that you connect to those things and that you disconnect from the things that force us into overconsumption and into systems of violence and into having to oppress other people in order to get our needs met. Anyways, that's my soapbox. I will see you all in a different space and time. And if you have any questions about this, pop them in the comments. I love to hear from you. And I will see you later.